Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC 262, Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. And Shaq, it's going on this Saturday night in Houston, Texas. Full capacity crowd for the new lightweight championship. It's going to go down this Saturday night. A new champ will emerge.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to this fight very much, man. Charles Oliveira, I've been watching him since like he was a kid, back in the days when he was on his first UFC run. I know you remember when he took the UFC by storm at first, and then and then Michael Chandler, the same thing as well, man. I've been watching him since the MTV2 days, man, back on Bellator. So I'm excited to see both men. They worked a very long they both had a long career to get to this point. A lot of setbacks, and they both have overcome adversity to be in the spot. So you got two dogs in there fighting on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I saw Charles Oliveira when he submitted Darren Elkins, I was like, man, this guy could be a future world champion. And we've seen the ups, we've seen the downs, and it's never been it's never been a matter of skill with Charles Oliveira. He's always been super well rounded. He's got a nasty series with his chokes. I mean, he'll run you through that series. His kickboxing's on point. It's always been a question of the mentality. You know, there have been some spots in fights where you wonder. Now the big question is, has he gotten over that? He's on an 8-fight win streak. We're going to talk about the legitimacy of that win streak when we get to this main event breakdown. And then on the other hand, you got Michael Chandler. People saying this guy didn't pay his dues. I'm like, look, you don't get to you don't finish Eddie Alvarez and beat some of the guys he's beat and not be deserving of a world title shot. So I think Mike Chandler is the real deal, Shaq.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I get where other people are coming from. Look, it's Bellator. They have lesser fighters, it is what it is. But I mean, he fought Eddie twice. He fought Benson. He fought Patricio. He fought Patricky. He fought some good guys. So, was there the occasional, Sydney Outlaw, or did Charles Oliveira get an opportunity to fight guys like that? I mean, he fought his Christos Giagoses and the Jared Gordon. So I mean, it looks pretty even to me, man. But Chandler definitely deserves this. I mean, he's been fighting at the highest level for a decade. So I'm excited.
I am as well, man. And in the co-main event, you got an all-violence fight between Beneil Dariush and Tony Ferguson. So we're gonna get into this whole card. We're gonna break down start to finish. But first up, we gotta give a big shout out to our sponsor, Manscaped. Always taking care of us, always hooking us up. And breaking news, guys. This is an important PSA brought to you by Manscaped. This is your pubic service announcement and the news you've all been waiting for. The Manscaped engineering team has confirmed that they have successfully created a lawnmower 4.0. That's what I got in my hands right here. This trimmer is now available for purchase in the USA and Canada. And this new trimmer was just released a week ago, and we are one of the first to get our hands on it and share the news. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code BATTLE20 at manscaped.com. Now, I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0, and I am blown away by the performance. At first, I was like, how could you top the 3.0? Well, let me tell you, they topped the 3.0. The craftsmanship and details on the 4.0 are next level. Their advanced ceramic blade and skin-safe technology is so good that it almost seems as if Manscaped worked with Elon Musk's engineering team to ensure your testes are as safe as possible. I legitimately thought they did. And we talk about those short notice opportunities. I know we said we can't use Kevin Holland as an example anymore, but hey, he might have lost his last two fights. He also got 6 figures his last 2 fights, so he's still laughing all the way to the bank. And what makes this trimmer different than all other trimmers is a new multi-function on and off switch can engage a travel lock created for people who like to travel. I mean, guys, the airports are opening back up, and you got to be ready for even more opportunities now. Now more than ever. Now more than 2019, right? So the Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn on the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for more precise shave. The new trimmer even allows you to customize your trim all over additional guard lengths with sizes 1 to 4. And looks-wise, it's sleek with a 2-tone matte and gloss finish. Even features a hot foil stamped black chrome Manscaped logo. Show that mower off loud and proud. The optimized Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is waterproof, so you can groom in the shower and not have to worry about making a mess on the bathroom floor. Did I mention wireless charging? The Lawnmower 4.0 new wireless charging system uses electromagnetic magnetic induction, which can help the battery last longer. If you're still trimming your face with your ball trimmer, it's time to make some changes, guys. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BATTLE20 at manscaped.com. No person wants to end up with pubes in their mouth, and your balls will thank you as well. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code BATTLE20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use code BATTLE20. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped, Shaq.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. You definitely don't want pubes around your face. So.
I mean, what did you think when they sent you that 4.0? I know you were probably wondering, hey, how could this 4.0 be better? But
shit, I'm still on my 3.0, man. I haven't even opened my 4.0, but we'll get to that when the day comes.
You know, these guys come through clutch, and I've been very happy with the 4.0. So let's go, Manscaped. Use that code BATTLE20 for 20% off and free shipping. Now, Shaq, let's break down this whole card start to finish, because first up in the lightweight division, we got a match between Sean Soriano. He's 14-6. He's taking on Christos Giagos, who's 18-8. Currently, they got Christos Giagos minus 210 to come back on Sean Soriano's plus 175. So, Shaq, they're giving Sean Soriano another chance to get back in the UFC, man. You know, he had his first run 6 years ago. Now he's back. And the issue with Sean Soriano was always this. Look, I mean, he used to light guys up standing. The guy's got good kickboxing, and then he kind of gas out and get choked out. If he's past that just this much, I think he can have some success here. So I'm wondering, what's your opinion on this spot, as well as Christos being minus 210?
Well, Sean Soriano, he's usually a featherweight, so you got to make him the underdog regardless. Giagos is a tough guy. I mean, he's big, he's strong, but we know his weakness. He fades in the late rounds, and he kind of fades pretty badly. But his first round and a half is usually very strong. His only losses as of late are to, Jacare and guys like Charles Oliveira. So, I mean, he's very experienced. Sean Soriano, it's still kind of been an issue for him, the rear naked choke, the ground game. I mean, he just lost a fight to Bruce Boyington not too long ago because he was whipping up on him, and then he just got on the ground, and it was in CES or something like that. So yeah, I think Sean Soriano is probably the more technical striker for 3 rounds. If Giagos gasses out, maybe he could steal a decision down the stretch. But I honestly think Giagos is just going to be too big, too strong for him. And I think he can manage on the feet, not necessarily outland him, but earn Soriano's respect with his power, man. Giagos is a very strong dude. He throws big bombs, especially in the first, 7-8 minutes. So I think Giagos is going to come out here, win the first 2 rounds, and probably drop the last one and win a nice little 29-28 decision. So I'm going with Christos Giagos.
Yeah, so real quick, these guys are saying they can't hear me. Can you hear me fine, Shaq?
No, your sound is I just messaged you in the chat saying right, your sound sounds weird.
Hold on, let's try something out. What about now?
Yeah, now it sounds better.
Is that better, y'all? Everybody in the chat, let me know if that's better. Sorry about that, guys. But someone says they still can't hear me. Let me do a quick refresh. You stay in here, Shaq. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back in this bitch. What's up? Y'all hear me now? Y'all hear me good? What do you think, Shaq?
Yeah, sounds better.
All right, cool. Perfect. All right, let's get down to business then. So what I was saying about Sean Soriano, in case y'all didn't hear me the first time, was that he's a really badass kickboxer. And basically, when he'd lose fights in the UFC back in the day, he'd fuck guys up standing, but then he'd kind of gas out and get choked out. And that actually happened to him a couple times on the regional scene as well. So now it's really a matter of, has he fixed that or not? And it's kind of like a similar quality to what you see in some of his teammates, say Michael Johnson, where he'll come out there, blast you standing that first round, kind of gas a little bit, get his back taken one time, and then it's over. The thing about Christos Giagos is, not to disrespect someone who's had, close to 30 pro fights, but I've always considered him more of an athlete than I do and not to say he's not a fighter, because of course he's a fighter. He's had close to 10 UFC fights, but I do question what happens down the stretch as well, not just with Soriano, but with Giagos as well. He does tend to gas out, and he is a bit of a meathead. He kind of relies on his athletic abilities more than he does on his warrior spirit. No disrespect. So I'm questioning what happens here down the stretch, because historically Sean's the one that gasses, but Christos is a gasser too, man. So it's a tough one to call. I honestly think at this price, it might be a dog or pass situation. It's just about, has Sean had a full camp? Has Sean truly turned the corner or not? Those are some things I'm questioning. Since I'm going back and forth on a line like this, I will take the dog, but it could be one of those situations where he hasn't fixed the mistakes. Maybe he lights up Christos that first round and then gets choked out in the second round. That's what I'm worried about, but I'll go with Soriano as the dog here. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Kevin Aguilar, he's 17-4, and Tucker Lutz is 11-1. Currently, they got Tucker Lutz -120. The comeback on Kevin Aguilar is +100. So, I mean, are we getting quarantine Aguilar here, Shaq, or you think that, you know, he was embarrassed enough by that Charles Rosa fight to where we're actually going to get a Kevin Aguilar that's in shape this time?
Yeah, man, I don't know, man, but I personally, man, I haven't been too high on Aguilar. Even when he was like 18, 19-1. I think, matter of fact, before he fought Ige or before he fought Tukugov, I think I even said, like, I think his record was like 18-2, and I said Kevin Aguilar strikes me as one of these guys where, you know, in a few years I feel like I'm going to be saying his record's 18-7 or 18-6, you know, just because, man, the dude's a brawler, and his style is just based on him being able to take that shot up front. If he can't take that shot up front, or if he's hesitant to take that shot because he doesn't have the same confidence in his chin, he's not a very good fighter, man. Kind of, you know, there's like other comparisons like James Vick, or maybe with you know, Ferguson later on the card. You know, once that ability is gone to take a punch, they just become, you know, complete shells of themselves. And I've been seeing a lot of signs with that with Kevin Aguilar. Now, fortunately for him, Tucker Lutz is probably one of the more lesser experienced fighters that he's ever fought, especially in a very long time. But even when he had he fought Tony Kelly when Tony Kelly was like 4-0, and I mean, Kevin Aguilar was still getting clipped with shots. He was still getting wobbled. He gets rocked in just about every fight. Now, Tucker Lutz, there's really nothing special. I just think he's a workman, you know, a solid guy. He can do everything, nothing out the blue. I just think he's a lot more efficient than Kevin Aguilar. Kevin Aguilar's got the power advantage on the hands, but can he defensively, even if he lands a power shot, what about the power shots that he's going to take? Tucker Lutz ain't known for his power, but his last fight against I forget the kid's name, tall black guy on Sherrard Blackledge. He was starting to get to him late. He was starting to eventually hurt him with punches and low kicks and things of that nature. So, look, am I like in a rush to play Tucker Lutz at minus money? No, but I think he's going to get this one. I think the best days of Kevin Aguilar are behind him. It's getting worse and worse each fight. First, Dan Ige got him. I was there live. I mean, it was a severe beating. I mean, it got ugly in that third round. Then we go into the Tukugov fight. He gets stopped in the first round. Now he's not pulling the trigger against guys like Charles Rosa, who, quite frankly, only has a sidekick. I mean, he's an Elias fighter, you know. I mean, the kid hits off. No offense, but and Kevin Aguilar just he couldn't get in the pocket like that anymore, man. I think Kevin Aguilar's had enough. I'm going with Tucker Lutz for a decision win.
Yeah, this is a tough one, man, because that last Kevin Aguilar fight, man, I mean, at the weigh-ins, it looked like he was, 6 months pregnant. So he was coming out of quarantine. I'm curious if he's had a better training situation this time around. Not that he's about to go on a run, but I think that if we see the Aguilar that first came into the UFC, he was like 16-1 at one point. I think that Tucker Lutz is one of those guys that he can go out there and beat. It's just like you said, you're right. Tucker is one of these workman kind of guys. He's not the most athletic in the world. He's pretty damn good with his kicks. And he definitely won that last fight, not by being the more athletic guy, but just by putting that pace on him. And it seemed like to me like he was fighting someone with even less experience than him that last time around.
By the way, your sound is messed up again.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
me at all?
Nah, it's just like faded.
That's weird, man. What about now? Can you hear me at all?
Nah, it's the same.
Fuck, bro. All right, hold on. Let's try a different mic. What do you
Yeah,
think now?
yeah.
Is it
Now
better
it's
now?
better. Yeah,
All right,
now it's
yeah.
better.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but just keep giving me updates if if shit ain't working. Right now we're good.
Yep.
All right. So, I mean, basically what I was saying was that Tucker was kind of beating up on a kid that was kind of green that last fight. Now he's kind of dealing with someone with more experience than him. It's just about is Kevin coming in there with that quarantine bod like last time? Because that was kind of sad, man. I like the way he lost to Charles Rosa. I really think that he would have beat him, you know, back when he was looking better. So it's just about where's he at right now. I don't know, man. I'm gonna go with Kevin because I'm hoping if he can just look 1% better than he did that last fight, that he can come out here and win this fight. But it's really tough to say where Kevin's at. I'm gonna pick Kevin. It's a pick 'em, but it could be a dogger pass situation. How am I sounding now, by the way?
It's it could be better.
Man, I'm sorry about this, guys. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I have a great setup, so I have no idea. But next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Gina Mazany. She's 7-4. She's taking on Priscila Cachoeira, who's 9-3. Currently, they got Gina Mazany -210. Priscilla's +175. Shaq, how you see this one going down?
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this fight too, man, because I kind of am a fan of Zombie Girl Cachoeira. Even though she's like 1-3, I mean, just look at the competition in that, man. Valentina out the gates, which she should have never took, and the heart she displayed in that fight. I mean, just look what Valentina's doing to some of these other girls. I mean, shit, it's getting ugly in some of these Valentina fights. And then you go into the fight with McCann in England, hostile environment, and Luana Carolina, who also has a winning record in the UFC. So she's fought some good competition. And then we got Gina Mazany. Look, I've never been high on Gina Mazany. I know she's with Kraus now, and I know the whole hashtag Kraus changes lives and all that good stuff. But I mean, this is just honestly how I feel about this fight. Look, it could be close to 50-50. I just don't, as far as a betting perspective, this line just is nonsense, man. Gina Mazany beat Rachel Ostovich. Rachel Ostovich is a complete can. Now I know, but Cachoeira also fought a complete can and finished her in less than a minute. So both of these girls, in my opinion, should be riding like a similar wave of momentum. The reason why I'm going to give Cachoeira the edge here, man, I still see, look, there's holes in her striking game too, but I actually think Cachoeira is trying to address them. A factor that a lot of people don't know is, she used to train at Jessica Andrade's gym. I forget what the gym's called, but with Carol Rosa and Andrade and all those girls. But now she actually switched up, man. She left, and on her Instagram post, man, she said it's no longer gonna be me, being the one that's always getting hit. She switched up. She's at Team Figueiredo now with Davison and Davison's little brother Francisco, and she's training with those guys. She's got Davison's striking coach. So I'm interested to see if we're about to see some new Mirajo style stuff from Cachoeira. I mean, is she gonna come out with the Davison stance? Is she, I don't know. I'm very interested. But at +175, I mean, I don't see how that isn't the side. Gina Mazany beat one girl, Rachel Ostovich. The fight previously, she folded up like a lawn chair. She's folded up like a lawn chair several other times. Cachoeira, in my opinion, just has more heart. Now, Gina's maybe got more tools. She can wrestle. Her hands might be a little bit faster, but at some point, man, if this is a 15-minute fight, I really see Cachoeira testing her heart. And I'm not convinced that Gina Mazany is the type to stand up and really fight back, man. I think Cachoeira will go out on her shield. She'll take chances. I just see this fight. It should be a pick 'em, man. I don't see why Gina Mazany is a 2-1 favorite over anybody, especially Cachoeira. I mean, Cachoeira might be 1-3, but it's an intense 1-3. I mean, she's putting pressure on you. She is taking all your shots. I mean, taking her down is not going to be like Rachel Ostovich, man. So I'm going with Cachoeira, and I'm going to say by vicious knockout down the stretch. I'm going to say in rounds 3, she gets to Gina, corners her, and I think we see some improved boxing. She got that $50K bonus her last fight, and I think I've been following her on IG, man. I think she invested it very wisely going to Team Figueiredo, and I think she's going to knock Gina out.
Before I continue, how am I sounding?
Yeah, good.
Okay, so I'm not gonna touch anything, okay? Because I don't know what the fuck is going on, but y'all let me know if I lose sound again. But basically, this is one of those spots I always talk about where we talk about the power versus technique. Not that Gina's some, technical striker or anything like that. She's more of a wrestler. But this is low enough level to where that power of Priscilla can make a huge difference. And she goes out there, she swings bombs. And I know Gina Mazany does not like that. I saw it in the what's the name of the tall girl from Fortis? What's her fucking name?
Chason.
Oh yeah, I saw it in the Xiaozan fight. I saw it in the Avila fight, and I've seen it in many fights. Oh, the Sarah McMahon fight. I've seen it in many fights along the way that you put that pressure on Gina, and she does not like it at all. I guess the big question is, and I think the reason why Gina's favored where she is probably because there might be a wrestling edge here for Gina. Maybe she puts Priscilla on her back and she doesn't get up. I would assume if you're laying the price on Gina, that's what you want to happen. So if you do, I wish you luck. But I think this is one of those spots where power can overcome technique. And I do see her having the kind of power to kind of punk her out. And the line is, a little bit out there. So I'll also agree with you on this one. And I will take Priscilla to get it done. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Andrea Lee. She's 11-5. She's taking on Antonina Shevchenko, who's 9-2. Currently, they got Antonina -125. The comeback on Andrea is +105. So ever since, Andrea and that piece of shit broke up, she's on a massive skid. You think she gets back on track against the sister Antonina this weekend?
You talking about my boy Donnie? Man.
Fuck Donnie.
But yeah, man, this is another fight I'm looking forward to because I actually have a stronger take than usual on this one, man. Look, I've never been too high on big sis, Chev on Antonina, but man, I think this might be a good spot for her. Andrea Lee, man, these last 3 fights have been bad, and they've gotten worse progressively, in my opinion. And I think she was considerably overhyped when she was on that 3-fight winning streak, because I recall being in attendance for one of those 3, and I wasn't impressed when she fought
Montana
De La Rosa, and what I see with Andrea Lee is just, I don't know if it's a health issue, but I just see a big cardio problem, man. She's coming out in these fights. She's just pretty much flat-footed moving forward in these boxing exchanges. And yeah, she's got decent hands, but by the end of the first, by the second round, I mean, Andrea Lee is visibly tired and her poker face is awful. I mean, she's wincing, she's grimacing. They want to say the Lauren Murphy fight was a robbery. I disagree. Then we turn into the Roxanne Modafferi fight where she's also a big favorite. And I mean, she gassed out again there. And I know Antonina Shevchenko is grappling, the Chookagian fight, and she also lost to Roxanne Modafferi. But I think she's got some legitimate excuses. I mean, it was only not when I say excuses, it was only her second fight in the UFC. She really hadn't fought too many good opponents before she fought Roxanne. And look, I know we joke around about Roxanne, but Roxanne is a good fighter. I mean, I know the top, 7, 8 girls like VV and Jennifer Maya Murphy and all them girls will easily beat her. But what happens whenever Roxy fights the young up and comer, man? She usually teaches them the vet lesson. So I actually think Shevchenko, I mean, that loss kind of makes more sense as where Andrea Lee had experience, and it was a drop down. I mean, the fact that Roxanne Modafferi wasn't only just getting off on the grappling, in my opinion, she was getting off on some hands as well. So I think Andrea Lee might be, oh man, I hate to say it, but I think she might be knocking on the door in 4 in a row. I think Antonina Shevchenko, the reason why I think it's a bad matchup for Lee is just she's way more disciplined than all these girls. like Roxanne. I mean, the openings on the feet were all there for Andrea Lee, but she was just too tired, or she just was too stuck in the mud, too slow. And I think like if she's looking like that out at range against these girls, Shevchenko, man, is gonna grab that plum, that clinch, knee her, just be disciplined, frustrate her on the outside. You know, you're gonna hear Valentina saying the A's, the A. And I really think that Shevchenko is gonna win an easy decision here, man. Andrea Lee, you know, she beat Ashley Evans Smith, who we know doesn't really want to fight. She beat Montana De La Rosa, and she beat Veronica Macedo. Like, this chick was severely overhyped. The second she went up in competition, I mean, you know, it's gotten worse in my opinion. Like, I think she's got a big cardio problem. So yeah, I'm going with Shevchenko to honestly kind of dominate her in the clinch. I think she can honestly get the takedowns too. Like, you know, the Chookagian fight, yeah, she got dominated on the ground, but Andrea Lee's not a John Danaher, you know, jiu-jitsu player. And Andrea Lee, I mean, her ground game isn't, you know, I mean, she finds herself on her back multiple times. And what I like is Shevchenko, she lost that fight in that fashion against Chookagian, and she comes back against Lipsky. I know it's Lipsky, but I mean, it was ass whooping, complete domination. And I mean, she won that fight on the ground. So I think Coach Pavel and Coach Valentina, man, they're making Antonina address this ground game problem. And I think, I'm not saying it's fully, you know, nipped in the butt, but I think against these level girls that she can kind of just do work against them, man. So I'm going with Shevchenko, man, to get a nice little 30-27 on the cards here.
Yeah, look, the reality is Andrea Lee hasn't been the same since what's his name left town. You know, he went hiding in the mountains, and she just hasn't been the same. We can say, oh, but you know, Antonina lost to Roxanne. Yeah, Andrea lost to Roxanne twice. So I mean, let's not even go there. And the whole thing with Antonina when she's losing these fights is she's getting taken down. But Andrea's a kickboxer, so I think it's two kickboxers going in there, and I think that Antonina's the better kickboxer of the two. So I mean, I don't gotta really get into it. I think the better kickboxer is gonna win in a kickboxing match here. So I'm gonna go Antonina via 30-27. But like you said, that last fight, she showed that, hey, she is, you know, making improvements on her ground game. She did feel like, hey, I got super embarrassed in that Chook fight. We need to address this. Whereas I'm not sure if Andrea Lee has that same accountability. I mean, we were in attendance in Greenville, South Carolina, when Montana De La Rosa took her back and all these things, and it was just not. Even these fights that Andrea Lee is winning, it ain't the prettiest, man. So I'm gonna also go with Antonina via decision here. So real quick, we got a question in the chat. My boy Nick said, Dan, how are you feeling about your boy Mike Soroka potentially being out for the season? Obviously that sucks, but shout out to Hosker Inoa, man. That's our new stud. Wanted to tell a quick little story. So a fan of the podcast named Jonathan, he hit me up in the comments. He said, I'm gonna be in Atlanta. You know, he said this past weekend. So I was like, all right, hit me up. So he hit me up. We met at the Braves game on Friday. Super cool guy. Shout out Jonathan. And then the next day he came to the NFC fights. So he was out there. He was partying with OSP and Diego Lima. He saw my boy Jamar, the Rockstar Whitehead's pro debut, 48-second knockout for those that missed it. So shout out to Jamar. It was very nice meeting you, Jonathan. So shout out to you, man. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Jamie Pickett, he's 11-5, and Jordan, the Beverly Hills Ninja, is 11-2. Currently, they got the Beverly Hills Ninja -115, and Jamie Pickett is -105. So, low-level middleweight fight here, Shaq. It's a pick 'em with a slight lean on the Beverly Hills Ninja. Which way you going, man?
Man, it's a tough one. Definitely not high on either guy, but I'm if I had to pick a guy, I gotta go with Jamie Pickett. I think he's more physical now. I think he got pushed back too much his last fight, but Beverly Hills Ninja, right, man. I mean, that guy, his last performance against Buckley, that was a little, I don't want to say a head scratcher, but I honestly thought he put up a better fight going into that. I was a little surprised at how one-sided it was, because Buckley did get knocked out his next fight in the very first round. And I think that Jamie Pickett's just a more athletic guy, faster, stronger. It's about mental with Jamie Pickett, man. It's just like, you know, it's funny. I actually seen Jamie Pickett fight back at Wild Bills, like when he was an amateur, and he's still doing some of the same things. But But I think I'm gonna go with Pickett. I just think he's faster, stronger. I think it'll be a stand-up fight too. Beverly Hills Ninja. His chin. Just ask Fluffy Hernandez about his chin. I mean, he'll hit that canvas unconscious. That's where. I mean, Jamie Pickett. At least one thing I can say is when Tafon cracked him, he survived. I mean, he every time the ref told him to move, he moved, and he hung in there. So I'm gonna go with Jamie Pickett. I'm gonna say by knockout to knock out the Beverly Hills Ninja. I mean, look at the Beverly Hills Ninja's 2 fights. The first one against Ike. I mean, I don't want to say he got gifted a win there, but hey, you cut him, congrats. And then I'm just not convinced how that fight would have kept going if it would have kept going. And then we go into the Joaquin Buckley fight where I was like, damn, Jordan, I actually thought he was somewhat live going into that, and he got steamrolled. So I'm going with Jamie Pickett.
I ain't picking the Beverly Hills Ninja to win a UFC fight, Shaq. Come on now. I mean, look, the thing with Jamie Pickett is, you can punk him out. It's just the issue is the Beverly Hills Ninja isn't punking out a damn thing. So
it's like, why would you ever be scared of a Beverly Hills Ninja?
All you got to do is put on that Anthony Fluffy Hernandez fight. And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, then I don't know what will, man. And look, this is the fight where Jamie Pickett can get his UFC win. This might be his only UFC win ever, but this will be his UFC win. So congrats, man. You'll always be able to tell your friends and family that you got your arm raised one time in the UFC. So shout out to Beverly Hills Ninja for, he's probably going to take a knee in this one, man. He's probably going to go down. Look, he actually does have some nice spinning techniques. It's just that chin gets touched. The fight starts getting real. Not that Pickett is the toughest, but I think Pickett's got enough to get this one done, so I'm going to go with Pickett here. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Mike Grundy, or as we like to say in the UK, Shaq, Grundy. He's 12-2. He's taking on Lando Vannata, who's 11-5-2. Currently, they got Mike Grundy minus 125. The comeback on Lando Vannata's plus 105. So, can you hear me first of all?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So basically, Lando's dropping a featherweight for this fight. So that should be interesting to see how he looks. He was always kind of small for lightweight, but I guess that does mean that he does have to put in some extra cardio work to get down that way. So he's going to probably be in the best shape of his life. The issue with Lando Vannata is he comes out heavy that first round, tends to slow down in a lot of these fights. And you start to slow down against a guy like Grundy, I think he can push that pace on you. I mean, this is a guy that took down Evloev like 6 times, and he had a deep ass Darce choke on Evloev that I think would have submitted a lot of people. But Evloev's the kind of warrior that I don't know how he stayed calm and got himself out of there, but he did somehow. I'm not convinced other men can do the same thing. I think this is a good spot for Grundy to come out here and get a signature win in the UFC, man, just by pushing a heavier pace. I know that his volume ain't exactly the best, but I like how he mixes in those takedowns, and I just like his pressure. He does hit kind of hard too. Look, if it turns into a kickboxing match, I definitely think that Lando's got a chance. And also, Lando is a D1 wrestler. Maybe he can keep it standing. But it seems like every fight that he's been taken down at least once, he seems to not win. So I have a feeling Grundy's going to be landing takedowns here. So I'm going to go with Grundy to win a decision here, Shaq.
Yeah, this is honestly one of the more tougher fights for me to call because Lando, he's had his, his little skid at 55. He's only beat Yancy Medeiros. And, but man, I'm not going to lie. I think this is a bigger drop in competition than people realize. Look, I think Grundy's good, but he kind of strikes me as a guy that just, I think the prime of his career is like now or never, basically. And that's the thing I'm questioning is, people are talking about Lando's cardio and his volume. I'm talking about Grundy's cardio and his volume. He's a muscular guy too that fades in the late rounds, in my opinion. And I really wasn't that impressed with this fight against Nat Narimani. I know he knocked him out, but he got rocked right before he dropped Nat. And Nat Narimani is a guy that's probably not going to be in the UFC for too much longer. And then you got his fight with Masvar. Yeah, Masvar stuck his neck in some chokes. I don't know why Masvar does that so much, but he completely gassed out. I mean, he wasn't throwing any punches down the stretch. So watching the tape on Mike Grundy, I was coming into this saying, oh, Lando's probably done. But then I was watching Grundy and I was like, oh man. And I think he's like, in terms of experience, he's definitely fought some guys, but in comparison to Lando, man, I just think Lando's been in a lot more real situations. A lot better fighters have been in front of him. The Bobby Greens, the T Fergs, the McDessies, Lando has, he might have not won the Dia Casey's, but I mean, the caliber fighter that he was up against, I mean, Mike Grundy, in my opinion, is nowhere near that level. So, man, honestly, I've actually been following Lando. I've been seeing him on Instagram running them hills, man. I've been seeing him in Albuquerque running the mountains. I'm a little curious, like maybe this, because, I mean, the drop to 45, he has to run. So maybe this cardio, it might be a little bit better or, just slightly better. But I'm not convinced Grundy's got, like, so much better cardio than him, man. So I'm actually going to go with Vannata to knock Grundy out here at some point. I think that Grundy's striking, he only throws one shots at a time. I could see Lando timing something, probably picking up on his timing, on his range a little bit quicker. I think Grundy's honestly more live for a knockout. I don't see the wrestling path per se, but I think he's more live for a knockout than wrestling. Like you said, Lando is a D1 wrestler, even though he did quit. But shout out to Grundy, man. He's the best wrestler in the UK. I mean, you don't see too many dudes from England hitting blast doubles like that. So, I got a lot of respect for him. But I'm going to go with Lando Vannata for the knockout win.
Hey, times are changing, man. He's, we used to call Leon Edwards the premier D1 wrestler from the UK, but I know Grundy, he's got those credentials. So let's see what happens. Next up in the middleweight division, this should be fun. We got Ronaldo Jacare Souza. He's 26-9. He's taking on Andre Muniz, who's 20-4. Currently, they got Ronaldo Jacare Souza -115 and Andre Muniz is -105. So you got two badass jiu-jitsu players going at it. Obviously, Ronaldo is the more well-rounded guy. He has knocked people out. It's just he might be towards the tail end of his career, man. That last fight against Holland is, it's not just what happened. It's also, look at Holland's next two fights. People were able to hold him down, keep that top control on him. That kind of lets me know that maybe Jacare's seen better days. And I know someone's going to be like, well, his fight prior, he went to split with Jan Blachowicz. I was like, yeah. Firstly, that wasn't a split. But secondly, like, I wasn't saying he was done in 2019. I'm saying he's done in 2021. So that was like the last ditch effort he had. And now he's kind of, he's seen better days, man. So this is tough because to pick someone to submit Jacare Souza, which has never been done. I mean, Jacare back in the day, this is a guy that submitted Mousasi, submitted Alexander Shlemenko, submitted Robbie Lawler. He's beat a lot of world champions in MMA. So he's got all my respect. I just think that, he's 42 years old by now or something like that. And Andre Muniz is no slouch on the mat at all. He's not scared to go to the ground with Jacare. And if Kevin Holland is having success on bottom, I'm very curious to see what Andre Muniz does. Just based off where they're at in their respective careers, I got to go with Andre Muniz in this spot. I think if they fought a couple years ago, that Jacare would have an edge. I mean, Jacare knocks people out, knocked Brunson out, knocked Weidman out. He's fought better people. I mean, like I said, submitted Mousasi, submitted Shlemenko, like all these great fighters. But that last fight let me know that, hey, it's probably over now. So, and even the Jack Hermanson fight let me know that as well. So I'm gonna go with Andre Muniz here to shock a lot of people despite the line being close.
Yeah, I haven't been too high on Jacare lately. I've been high on Muniz. Muniz hasn't really fought anybody, but I mean, this is gonna be his first big fight. Antonio Arroyo and Fabinski probably won't be in the U.S. I mean, Fabinski just got cut yesterday, so that's already one. And Arroyo, let's see if he can beat Tom Breeze. I heard that's his next fight. So let's see. I'm assuming Arroyo is going to be out of here as well. So look, there is some. I mean, one could say, Jacare's got the experience. I mean, he's fought way better competition, all that good stuff. But they were kind of saying that going into a few of his last fights. And what I don't like about Jacare is just the ability to face adversity. Now, I know he faced Chris Weidman, but man, there was something that happened before that Hermanson fight where I just didn't like the things that he was saying. Before the Hermanson fight, he was saying that, if they don't give me a title shot, I'm going to retire. And I think his head was so focused on that I mean, we saw how that night when he was getting rocked by punches against Jack Hermanson. No offense to Jack, but Jack ain't known for his boxing, Daniel. And then we got these fights with Jan Blachowicz, where on paper it says split decision, but as far as I thought Jan beat him without even trying. To be honest, I thought Jan was in first gear all night, just wanted to use the jab, and I had it 4 rounds to 1, but hey, it was in Brazil. They scored it for him. And then the Kevin Holland fight just wasn't good. Look, I've kind of been hinting for a while that I think Jacare's slightly overrated black belt, especially at this age, just because I've seen him, at least within the last like 3-4 years, I've seen him in the first round, fresh, fully mounted on guys with purple belts, and he slipped off or he couldn't maintain the position. I'm going to attribute it more to the age, and maybe he just can't move those bones the way he once did. But I mean, yeah, he tapped out Mousasi, Shevchenko, and Robbie Lawler, but I just think his black, especially right now, I think his jiu-jitsu game is going to be overrated. I think he's more alive for a knockout here. I think the more he grapples is just the more it's going to tire him out, and then his muscles are just going to be completely stiff. But man, it's going to be tough to say because we haven't seen Muniz against anybody, anybody relevant. We haven't really seen him against anybody. I mean, Antonio Arroyo was standing on top of Muniz for minutes at a time, just standing there. I was like, is he gonna do anything, or is he just gonna sit there? And man, Antonio Arroyo is something else. But I'm gonna go with Muniz. I just think that, like you said, the way things are trending, that Jacare at 41 too, at this age, is the durability is a big concern. He just got knocked out from Kevin when Kevin Holland was on bottom, and it just wasn't a good look. Like, I just thought he was struggling to control him. I mean, he's just old, man. I think Muniz can attack off his back. And don't sleep on Muniz's jiu-jitsu, man. I did my research online. Like, Muniz is quite the jiu-jitsu guy down there in Brazil as well. I don't know if he's got as many medals as Jacare, but he's got a shit ton of medals himself. So I wouldn't sleep on his jiu-jitsu. I know this is a fight the jiu-jitsu people have been looking forward to for a while. So I'm going to go with Andre Muniz to just kind of be younger, fresher, and more so Jacare just kind of running in trouble himself just due to his age and his durability. And I think that it's hard for him at this age to like really bite down and really break someone at this stage. I think that he's very breakable right now. So I'm going to go with Andre Muniz to just win a decision, probably.
There is a 10-year age gap in that fight. We're dealing with 41 versus 31. So let's see. I mean, I noticed the younger grapplers, and you got to be a certain level, of course, but I think Muniz is a serious black belt too. So I'm very curious to see these grappling exchanges. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Shane Burgos, he's 13-2, and Edson Barboza is 21-9. Currently, they got Shane Burgos -140. The comeback on Edson Barboza is +120. I mean, Shaq, they're either going to stand and bang until one man falls, or it's going to be a 3-round war, going to be fight of the night. How you see this one playing out? You favor, the boxing to Burgos or the kicking to Barboza? And I say that Barboza, don't sleep on his hands either.
Yeah, this is a good fight. Burgos had an incredible last fight. His fight with Josh was amazing, and I kind of been a little too harsh on Shane, man, because after I watched that fight, I mean, I've been on the record to say I think Emmett's the hardest hitter in the division, and I hope Emmett comes back from this recovery, because I think he had the cruise problem with his surgery, so he's got to like do rehab again or some shit like that. But man, Edson, big fan. I mean, Edson, the spinning wheel kick over Terry Edom, the Dariush KO. I mean, he's got I mean, we know Edson Barboza. He's known for his vicious flash knockouts. And to be honest, man, I think that's the only thing Shane Burgos needs to be worried about, is just getting flash knocked out. But to say that Shane Burgos is chinny, look, you can make that case, but at the same time, we're talking about Josh Emmett, and the way Josh Emmett set him up for those knockdowns, I think is going to go under the radar. Like, Emmett has dude so scared of that right hand against Burgos. He was just faking that right hand and then switching stance and then coming with the left. It was just hats off to Josh. Like, but I honestly thought hot take that you can make a case that Burgos won the first 2 rounds. I mean, Burgos, one thing I respect, which I think this is a bad matchup for Edson in the sense like Burgos does not stop working. He does not stop moving forward. He is always throwing. He's always feinting. He's always making his opponent work. And we know that's Edson Barboza's weakness. Edson does not like to work. Look, Edson's going to be live for the big, flash KO in the early rounds, but Edson Barboza, no offense, is not the toughest guy in the world. We know that Edson Barboza's chin is not the best in the world. And even though he looked good against Makwan, what I didn't like was after the beating Makwan took those first 2 rounds, Edson arguably loses that 3rd round because he's so tired. And it's like he fell apart against Paul Felder in the 3rd round. He fell apart. He let Amir Khani win that round on 2 cards. Then you go to the Dan Ige fight. Dan Ige straight up out hustled him. I mean, these guys are slower than Edson. Look, Edson, if he can catch Shane was something. Honestly, he's throwing less and less spins. I think he's getting a little older. Like I think he's more so live with the hand boxing knockouts than he is with the kicks these days. Like I think the kicks is just taking a lot of energy out of him. And I honestly see Shane Burgos walking Edson down and breaking him, man. I think that, Edson's going to be live for the knockout in the first round. But I think by the end of the first, that forward pressure and just that ability to just keep working, keep making them exchange, keep making them be on the defense is just going to suck out that gas tank of Edson. And eventually Shane will land something in the title turn. And I see Burgos just kind of dominating those last 2 rounds. So I'm going with Shane Burgos I'll say 29-27 decision. I think the last round will probably be like a 10-8 or something like that. And then, he'll move on in the featherweight division. I just think Edson Barboza's best days are behind him. I mean, the blueprint is out there to beat him. It's forward pressure. It's a high work rate. And I think that Shane Burgos actually does have a chin, man. I mean, some of the shots he was eating, I mean, I've seen what Emmett does to some other guys when he hits them with those shots. They don't move. So I think he does have a chin. So, yeah, I'm going with Shane Burgos.
When he TKOs people, they get back. What was that shit Jeremy Stevens was saying? Yeah, so I feel you there. Jeremy actually knocked out Josh Emmett, but no one's exempt from that. I was gonna say first L at featherweight because my boy Desmond Green beat him. But back to this fight. So you talk about that high work rate. I'm glad you did because Shane Burgos' last 3 fights, he landed 128 significant strikes against Josh Emmett, 105 against Makwan, and 134 against Cub Swanson. So right away, we know he's got the work rate necessary to compete with a guy like Edson Barboza. Because, like you said, the way to beat Edson, you got to put that pressure on him. And the thing about Shane, it's nonstop going forward. Now, my only concerns with Shane is the same concern I've had throughout his entire career. He fights with his hands down. And, Edson can bang, man. Edson, obviously, he's got some of the best kicks in the history of the sport. I think his hands are underrated as well. So that's just what you got to be worried about when you're laying chalk on Shane is that, look, you're fighting with your hands down. You're fighting a serious striker. Aside from that, though, I think Shane Burgos has a very good chin. I know he got dropped his last 2 fights, and I know Cater knocked him out, but I still think he's got a solid chin. Don't sleep on the kicks of Shane, man. He's got some underrated kicks as well. He does come from that Tiger Schulman gym, so he's training with well-rounded kickboxers there. He's fucking huge for 45s. We talk about Edson dropping down. I mean, it's actually they actually have similar height and reach. They're both 5'11" with a 75-inch reach. Shane's the younger guy here. So 2 big boys going at it in the featherweight division. I've always wondered how Shane made featherweight, man. He's fucking massive. I could see him ending his career at lightweight, but that consistent forward pressure and that output is what should get to Barboza. It's just about, not getting chopped down with calf kicks. I don't see that happening, though. I mean, I think that Shane's got good distance. I think he's got some kicks of his own that you shouldn't sleep on. But they're going to get into a stand and bang fight, and Edson's always got a chance in one of those fights. So if someone comes in on Edson, I understand why. However, I got to go with Burgos here because of the pressure, the output, and the nonstop forward pressure. And I think he's the more durable guy. Even though he's been dropped, I think the shots he got dropped with were bombs, whereas I've seen Edson Barboza get dropped with jabs back in the day and just get out hustled in that Ige fight. Like, even though some of us live thought he won the first 2 rounds, the way he lost that third round, he slowed down big time, man. And you don't want to slow down against a guy like Shane Burgos, who's consistently going to go forward. So I'm going to go with Shane Burgos. Probably decision here, but I could see a late stoppage as well. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got the perennial number one contender, Katlyn Chookagian. She's 15-4. She's taking on Vivi Araujo, who's 10-2. Currently, they got Katlyn Chookagian minus 140. The comeback on Vivi Araujo is plus 120. So, I mean, I got to know, man. Do you think my girl Vivi's about to get chooked here, or do you think she can come out here with that power, that athleticism, that explosiveness, and get the biggest win of her career?
Yeah, Chookagian, we already know what's coming. I mean, same old Chook, gonna come with the sounds. But at the same time, man, I'm gonna give her some credit because I don't want to say that she hits air thing is a myth, but it kind of is, man. Because some of these girls, the way Cynthia Calvillo's face looked at the end of that, I mean, that didn't look like air punching to me. Or the way Joanne Calderwood's face looked after that fight definitely didn't look like air punching. I mean, noses were broken, blood was everywhere. So, as far as this fight, man, this is, I think, one of Chookagian's tougher like non-top tier fights. She's not the top tier. I consider the Valentinas, Andrades, Rose, Wiley, all them. And then you got Chookagian, who I feel like is in that next tier. So Viviane, I mean, physically speaking, she's faster than Chookagian. She's more powerful, in my opinion. Vivi can do it all. The big issue with Vivi is the gas tank, and can that cardio hold up in time for her to win 2 rounds? Like, Chookagian's range and distance gives a lot of these girls problems, but Cynthia Calvillo, I mean, is Cynthia Calvillo known for her strike? Cynthia Calvillo, for some reason, always thinks she's an MMA boxer, and then she starts getting touched up, and I think they rushed it. That line was just wacky. I think everyone wrote Chookagian off because she lost to Andrade, and Cynthia beat Jessica Jessica I might be completely done, man. I think that line was just completely wacky, and then but VV, man, look, I thought she could have looked better against Roxanne. There was definitely some signs that still say the cardio still might be a concern, but a part of me also feels like Roxanne, she probably felt completely unthreatened, and it was just more of a 15-minute workout, as where, the Montana De La Rosa fight, I mean, I was somewhat blown away by that. I mean, I thought the footwork, the cardio, the way she was throwing some of those bombs, I feel like if that version of VV shows up, I actually think she's a live underdog. I think Chookagian's a completely different fighter when she's getting pressed and when she's moving forward. When girls sit back at range, we already know what's going to happen. They're about to get chooked up, but if you come at her and move forward and bring the fight to her, she does not like it. Even dating back to the Liz Carmouche fight or the Jessica I fight back in the day. When you come forward on Chookagian, her chin pops up in the air. Her takedown defense ain't the best. It's just that when you sit back, I mean, she's going to pick you apart. So I think it's a 50-50 fight. I think VV could get takedowns. I think she can land big overhand rights on Chookagian. It's just a matter of how long can she do it before she gets tired? Look, she's going to get tired at some point. She gets tired a lot. It's just a matter, can she win the first 2 rounds or before she starts huffing and puffing? We'll see. I think it's a close to a 50-50 fight. Maybe slightly lean Chookagian, just slightly, but I'm still skeptical on Chook, man, in terms of just, where she's going from here. I know she's mentioned retirement, even though I think the public took that a little bit too seriously. I mean, we just know that VV is going to be more hungrier, in my opinion. So I'm going to take VV for a close split decision win, but it wouldn't shock me if it went the other way. But I think this might be a good time to fade Chook. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the issue with fading Chook is it's so easy to underestimate her, and then she goes out there and just, I don't know if outworking is the right term, but she's got away with those judges, man. And whether it's the tennis sounds, I mean, even it's not that she's throwing at air all the time. It's that even when she doesn't land, she's still making sounds, and the judges hear that. And those points start to add up. And also she's got a little sneaky ground game to go along with it. I would say, Viviane, I love her footwork. I love her explosiveness. I love her power. Just, visually speaking, I enjoy watching Viviane Araujo fight a lot more. Her style is badass. It's just, again, that gas tank like you were talking about. Now, I personally thought those last 2 fights were a big step in the right direction, man. I felt like she learned her lessons from that Jessica I fight, and I felt like she really put it on Montana and Roxanne, and now she's ready for this big test. I'm curious to see if she passes it. Look, I'm going to pick Vivi as well. I do think it's a dog or pass situation. Just the thing that worries me is the thing that worries me in any Chookagian fight is getting choked. It's one of those things that tends to happen a lot, but I'm going to go with Vivi here. I think that when she lands that, I think Chook's going to be feeling those shots. I think that Vivi can go forward the whole time. It's just, don't start huffing and puffing by that 7-minute mark, and there's a good chance you win this fight. So I'll go with Vivi at the dog price as well. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Matt Schnell, he's 15-5, and Rogerio Bontorin is 16-3. Currently, they got Matt Schnell minus 160. The comeback on Rogerio Bontorin is plus 140. So, Matt Schnell is actually a really damn good fighter, man. The only issue with him is, his chin ain't exactly the best. I've seen, not to call them soft shots, but I've seen him knocked out by things that I'm pretty confident other people in the weight class would walk through. Aside from that, I can't really criticize him much, man. He's got a nice point fighting style. He switches his stances. He's got a little sneaky ground game to go along with it. So I think Matt Schnell's a pretty damn well-rounded guy. He's got good volume. I like Matt Schnell. With Rogerio Bontorin, he's more of an explosive guy here. He's going to be the one throwing the big bombs, and possibly he could catch the chin of Schnell. Also, he's got some good jiu-jitsu as well. That last fight with Jacare France, he was dominating Jacare France until he got off the back, and then he got knocked out. And that wasn't too long ago, man. Like, that was actually pretty damn recently. That was in March. So I'm curious if he's recovered from that concussion, because he face planted, man. And I would think that, 2 months, you need a little more than 2 months to recover from that. Listen, I'm not a doctor. Maybe I'm way off. Maybe he comes out here, takes the back of Schnell. Maybe he knocks Schnell out. But I was kind of, if Bontorin was one of my guys, I'd want him to take more time off. So I'm going to go with Matt Schnell here to outwork Rogerio Bontorin and win this decision. It's just, don't get caught. If he doesn't get caught, I think he wins this fight. I'm going to go Matt Schnell here via decision.
Yeah, it's a tough one just because I think the line's a little bit wacky. But look, I was kind of leaning Schnell, maybe just not by that margin. I think he looked good his last fight, but at the same time, Tyson Nam is a statue that doesn't move his head, and Tyson Nam's lost I don't know how many decisions. Tyson Nam is known for losing decisions, man. So I think it could possibly be a little bit of recency bias here, just because everyone's down on Bontorin. His last 2 fights have been complete shit. But at the same time, Schnell does not have bombs like Jacare France. But Schnell is a good point fighter. He's probably the more well-rounded fighter here. It's just, I don't want to pay that price for it. I am going to pick Schnell for the win. I just think Bontorin's cardio would probably fade down the stretch. But I think that as far as a betting perspective, these are the spots where I don't want to say this is a trap. I'm not saying that this is a trap spot, but this is where the recency bias spot, where everyone's down on Bontorin for right reasons, obviously. But Matt Schnell, let's not forget the fight before this, the Pantoja fight. That was a borderline suicide mission, and then and then in some of his other fights, like you were saying, you've seen him get knocked out with some pretty soft stuff. So I'm gonna go with Schnell to kind of keep his distance, jab him, make him work, make Bontorin get tired, or maybe Bontorin just gasses out himself after a back take. But Bontorin is kind of that basic mummy Brazilian, good early, but the second they get tired, things fall apart. So I'm gonna go with Matt Schnell for a close decision win.
Co-main event of the evening, we got the former interim champ Tony Ferguson. He's 25-5. He's taking on the number 5 ranked Beneil Dariush, who's 20-4. Currently, they got Beneil Dariush minus 175. The comeback on Tony Ferguson is plus 155. So obviously, a year or two ago, this line would have been flipped, but this is now. This is not then. Tony's definitely seen better days. And Beneil, every time I break down a Beneil fight, I always talk about how in 2016, I thought he was the number 5 guy on planet Earth when he beat Michael Johnson, went through some hard times, picked himself back up. Now he's on a 6-fight win streak. And when you talk about, have you earned the opportunity to fight a guy like Tony Ferguson? Do you have the experience? Well, I mean, Tony Ferguson's got 15 UFC wins. Beneil's got 14 UFC wins. So I think Beneil's got the experience to hang with anyone in this division. It's just with Beneil, he's one of these guys that he's got this Terminator, killer, be killed style. He's going to go forward. He fights with his balls. I mean, he gives no fucks whatsoever. He doesn't care about playing it safe. And that's why, when you're laying a price like this, you just got to, kind of understand that Beneil, he might get caught or he might gas out because he goes so damn hard for that finish. However, if he does not get caught and he does not gas out, I can see him actually dominating this fight. Look, Tony Ferguson, I know Shaq's going to talk about the validity of his win streak. And I thought he was legit at one point, man. I mean, when you beat RDA the way he did back when he did, that was RDA 1 fight removed from a title. I thought he was pretty legit. It's just that now Tony's almost 40 years old and he hasn't really fixed some of these errors in his game. He hasn't really cleaned up a lot of things. I mean, the things we love about him is you drop him, he's going to get back up and throw some intense stuff at you. And on the mat, he's got that funky jiu-jitsu game to go along with it. It's just that we haven't really seen too much evolution. And now he's getting kind of older. Maybe he's not as durable as he once was. And that last fight against Charles do Bronx, I mean, maybe it's a case of Charles do Bronx paid his dues and he's ready to become a world champion. But also, I'm under the impression that a couple years ago, Tony would have had a little bit more fight in him. And even in the physical side of things, I know that even Danny Castillo held him down in that 3rd round back in the day. But like those first 2 rounds, like Danny had to go through shit to get to that point. Charles didn't have to go through anything. And I think it's consistently been getting worse. And I think it all started off with whatever that surgery was when he like tripped over the wire. He just hasn't looked as good since, man. I mean, like the Anthony Showtime Pettis fight, as a fan, it was great to watch. But when we're talking about, potentially fighting for a title, you don't want to see a guy that's getting dropped, rolling around all over the place. The Cowboy Cerrone fight was kind of close until that eye swelled shut. And then the Gaethje fight, I mean, that's one of those fights where obviously you respect, such a true warrior to take all those shots, but then you're kind of concerned. He ate so many clean shots that, like, how do you come back from that? Well, the way he came back from that looked like a diminished version of himself, and he got dominated, not just on the feet, he got dominated in every facet of mixed martial arts that last fight. And then you question his training situation. His head coach was Cisco Rivera. And now I heard he did some work with Coach Freddie Roach, so maybe his hands are a little sharper. But I think it might be a little too late. It's just, here's the thing, Beneil, the way that Beneil fights, Beneil does leave openings because you fight with that killer be kill style, and Beneil does not play it safe at all. So there will be openings for Beneil to get caught, and maybe Tony does catch him. I understand people see a price like this on Tony Ferguson wanting to play him. But if he doesn't land that kill shot, I really do think that Beneil will be able to mix in takedowns like people have been able to do to Tony in the past. I think that Beneil will avoid the submissions. I mean, Beneil is a very credentialed jiu-jitsu black belt. You guys can't forget about that. Back before he was in the UFC, he was like an up-and-comer on the jiu-jitsu scene. He was out there with Crone Gracie on the mats, and that was like a big deal back in the day. But he's also got that knockout power too. He's knocked people out with one punch. He's got heavy kicks. I think Beneil's at a point where he's putting it together. It's just, you got to worry about the same shit you always got to worry about with Beneil. That chin, that gas tank. Tony did have a good moment against Gaethje at the end of round 2. Now, granted, they were both going for uppercuts, I believe, and Tony landed first. So there's always things to worry about with Beneil. But at the end of the day, I do think that he's at the right spot right now, mentally, physically, to come out here and dominate a guy like Ferguson, who is on his way out and who has seen better days. And I love Tony Ferguson, but I don't see this ending well, and I actually think things are going to get worse. And I hope he doesn't go down the Diego Sanchez path. But he's always been that kind of crazy guy, but we loved him because he was so good. But now he's that crazy guy on his way out, and I've never seen these stories end well. So I'm going to go with Beneil Dariush to get this one done here.
Yeah, this is a good fight because, man, Dariush is one of the harder fighters for me to call his fights because, man, when I watch him, I see a lot of openings for him getting knocked out. And oh man, I mean, look, this last fight against, because the other ones were pretty much quick finishes against kind of guys on their way outs like Holtzman and Camacho, Jacare. I mean, spectacular finishes for sure. But man, I definitely still see. I mean, his last fight he got tired. It's just Diego Ferreira couldn't stop the takedowns, which kind of led me into passing on Diego Ferreira this past weekend because I honestly thought that Dariush was huffing and puffing by the middle of the second. I mean, and Diego just couldn't stay up off his back. So props to Dariush for digging deep and getting those takedowns. But man, Ferguson, bro, I've always look. I respect him. I think he's one of the better lightweights of all time, 100%. Look, when I say these things, this is just based off the public perception of him. I've never thought he's been as good as the public perceives him. You know how you were talking about that RDA fight and how he beat RDA, this and that. Look, I hate to discredit wins, but that was my boy. That was the cloudiest spot in RDA's career. I mean, he had just got knocked out against Eddie Alvarez. He just left Rafael Cordero. He almost died in the sauna the day before. Like, it was perfect timing for Tony Ferguson, and it wasn't like the fight was 48-47. So like, it was a good fight, but I'm not discrediting his win, but. I think there was some factors going up against RDA. He did go to 170 right after that. So, look, he won his interim title out beating Kevin Lee. Not his fault. I mean, Kevin Lee was probably the only guy available at the time, but it is what it is. He won an interim title out beating Kevin Lee. I mean, it is what it is. And the reason why I've been skeptical about this number one status that he had for so long, I mean, should the number one guy in the world be getting dropped and wobbled all over the place by a debutant Lando Vannata all those years ago? I mean, I was skeptical back then. I just never really saw it. Then once he had the injury, the Pettis fight, he looked just very sloppy. Same thing with the Cerrone fight. So I've actually faded Tony Ferguson the last two fights. Granted, they were at way better prices than they are this weekend, but that's expected just because, I mean, the last two have been complete domination. Justin Gaethje absolutely dominated him, plus 175. Charles Oliveira, plus 150. Granted, I definitely do consider those guys a caliber above Dariush, but these things don't get better, they get worse. Tony Ferguson, mentally, man, I don't know. That guy, there's a lot of things going on in that head, and I feel like for a long time the fans kind of inflated his ego up a bit. I mean, I remember this guy cutted weight before the Gaethje fight for no reason, and people were like saying it was a cool, badass thing, and I was sitting there talking to myself like, yeah, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I mean, half the shit Tony says is just dumb, and like, yeah, I am gonna call, he the boogeyman, this and that. He breaks all this stuff. Well, it's a big whoop to break Anthony Pettis. It's a big whoop to break Cowboy Cerrone and Kevin Lee and Edson Barboza and all these guys. Yeah, they were spectacular wins, but let's not act like them dudes ain't been broken several times before. And so I just always thought he's a good fighter, but I just never thought he was number one. But so yeah, I'm gonna go with Dariush. A betting perspective, I think it's honestly stay away from. I just don't like that price on Dariush, but he's the guy that's trending upwards. Tony's trending downwards. But you kind of have to pay minus 170. What is it? 75, 180, something like that to find out. And I do think it's a step down from Charles and Justin. And I still see signs of Dariush gassing out. It's just, man, every time I bet against Dariush, he usually wins. So I'm not betting Tony Ferguson. I think Tony Ferguson is borderline unbettable, but we'll see. I'm gonna go with Dariush, but I'm gonna say, I mean, Denzel, I feel you, but like, trust me, Denzel, I don't think you really would have wanted to see that fight. I mean, Kevin Lee fully mounted him and was smashing him before he got tired. I mean, what do you think Khabib would have done? Khabib honestly didn't even need to take him down. I mean, Khabib could have stood with him and just boxed him too, but hey, that's just my opinion. But yeah, I'm going with Dariush, but I'm gonna say by a fight of the night war, like back and forth fight.
Denzel, I mean, look, I actually really wanted to see that fight back in the day too. And it had that feel to it, the two top guys. But based off how events have played out since then, I think it, looking back at it in hindsight, I think it probably would have been a domination for Khabib, like a bad domination. Like, I think he would have beat the shit out of him. Main event of the evening for the vacant lightweight title. Speaking of Khabib, he vacated his belt. Very nice of him. Retires 29-0. That's some GOAT shit right there. We got Charles do Bronx Oliveira. He's 30-8. He's taking on Mike Chandler, who's 22-5. Currently, they got Charles do Bronx -125. The comeback on Mike Chandler is +115. So, listen, man, both these guys have paid their dues to the max. I mean, Charles Oliveira, I remember when he first came into the UFC against Darren Elkins, against Efrain Escudero. Then all of a sudden he's fighting Cowboy Cerrone and Jim Miller. And the guy has really clawed his way. Now he's on this 8-fight win streak, earned his title shot. I mean, I'm curious to see if the culmination of a life's work is going to result in him being a world champion. And then with Mike Chandler, maybe he hasn't been in the UFC, but he's been paying his dues a long ass time. And I mean, this is a guy finished former UFC champion Eddie Alvarez, finished former UFC champion Benson Henderson, only man in the UFC to knock out Dan Hooker with punches. So as far as I'm concerned, he's credentialed to fight for a title. Shaq, how you see this one going down? Because I truly believe these guys fight 10 times. It's going to be a different result every time. And it's just about nailing this one Saturday night. How you see it going down?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because I could see it going either way. Truly, man. I think if you got either guy at dog money, I mean, I would take it. It's just tough because these guys like Charles, man, I almost feel like once they get to this title fight, that it's like, when I say guys like him, guys that have losses like a Poirier or a Bisping, Makovic, these guys that, have had setbacks in the UFC. Chandler's had setbacks too, so we can't act like he hasn't. I mean, Chandler's bounced back from losses several times himself. But Charles more so just because the extent of some of his losses. Like, we know he had a big issue. I mean, Charles Oliveira for the last better part of a decade has been labeled a quitter. I mean, he's always been labeled a quitter. And, this streak, yeah, there's only been a couple legit, 2 or 3 real legit opponents on there, but I almost think that's good, man. It was almost like he just kept building his confidence, fight by fight, and just getting more comfortable. But his striking is what really I feel like has been the X factor. It's like now he's a threat to actually hurt guys on the feet, and now he's like in his younger days, and I don't think people really respected his stand up too much. I mean, he had a couple good moments, but he was never a guy that was out here timing knees up the middle and jabbing guys and throwing overhand rights, flying knees. He was more so just basics and kept it very simple. So I think that the fact that part of his game has rounded out, man, it almost makes Charles like an instant problem because it's like you can't take him down. You can't. It's like, we got to worry about the triangle game. But now if the dude is comfortable in the pocket, it's like he's tall, he's long, he's rangy, and if you leave that head down, he could dangle off it. I mean, it's a lot of problems. Look, I think Chandler is a beast, man. I mean, a serious athlete, a little power ball. I mean, the dude can crack. I know you remember that when he knocked out Patricio's big brother and left him unconscious in the Bellator cage. I mean, that was one of the most vicious knockouts I've ever seen. I was like, yo, is Patrici dead? Like, somebody go get him. Like, is he okay? And his loss against Patricio, I actually bet Patricio at plus 200 odds, but I honestly don't think there's much shame. I mean, Patricio is a bad motherfucker. He's a 2-weight world champ. Did you just see what Patricio did to Manny Sanchez? I mean,
one doesn't simply.
I mean, the dude just came out there and ran through him. So Chandler, there's honestly no shame in that. Chandler is a top tier fighter in that lightweight division. Now, the only concern I would have is I think he might be slightly overconfident. Be confident in yourself. But I remember what he was saying a couple weeks ago. And look, he's got every right. Charles has quit in the past, but going into a title fight, man, I want to hear my guys saying this is going to be a war. Like, if he knocks him out in the first round, he knocks him out in the first round. But I want to hear my guys saying this is going to be a war to the end. And I like the way Charles Oliveira has been carrying himself a little bit, just calm, cool, collected, not really saying much. I mean, Charles has really matured into an elite fighter in front of our eyes. It took over 10 years, but we've seen this with a lot of guys, man. When they get to this title fight, they won't be denied. And but yeah, I want to get back to Chandler. His fight with Hooker was amazing. I mean, come out there to knock Dan Hooker out in the first round is a huge statement. But I cannot ignore some of the factors going into that fight. I truly look. If you go back to my breakdown before with that fight with Chandler, I picked Chandler to win that fight, and one of the main reasons I was saying is because I said Dan Hooker is completely bad energy right now. Look, like Charles Oliveira said, had Dan Hooker been more focused on the fight instead of making jokes and trying to, say Charles Olives and Charles, all this shit at the press conference, maybe he could have fought a little better. But I truly think that was a spot where, Dan Hooker was coming off that amazing fight that he had with Dustin Poirier, in which me and you both know that got very crucial for him towards the end. I mean, look at his face at the end of that fight. I mean, 2 black eyes shut. I mean, blood everywhere. I mean, just look at the canvas after that fight. Dan Hooker, Dustin Poirier might have took everything out of him. I think it was honestly just a perfect spot for Michael Chandler to come in here and get the win. I mean, Hooker, his fight with Paul Felder, it was very close. He only beat out, Hooker was the most liable guy in that top 6 or 7 picture, in my opinion. And then, Hooker going into that fight was saying the same shit that, before Gaethje came in. Remember when Gaethje was coming into the UFC and everyone was saying he's a C League fighter and a B League fighter and all this and that. I was like, bro, you're making the same mistake. Because he's coming from Bellator, he can't fight. I think Hooker is just very, I don't want to say weak mentally, but just too carefree. Runs his mouth a little bit too much, and I think he paid the price for it in that Mike Chandler fight. Charles Olives is cute and all, but Charles Olives is fighting for a belt, and I heard they're trying to get you to take fights with Arman and Fiziev and things like that. So I think man, I can't, but yeah, but you can say the same thing for Charles. He Tony Ferguson's washed up and this and that, but man, that was complete domination for 15 minutes. I kind of want to see what happens more with Mike Chandler if this gets stretched out, because I have seen in some of his past fights in Bellator him start off very good and then kind of slow down in the late rounds, like the first fight with Benson Henderson. And Mike Chandler, his chin has kind of been a little iffy in the past too, but I do think this is the best spot in his career. He's very confident in himself right now. It's a tough fight for me to call, but I'm going to go with Charles Oliveira, man. I think that is just one of those things where he's not going to be denied on Saturday night, man. Just think about all the shit that Charles has come back from, man. And it's just to the point where shit, he earned his way to a title fight. Congratulations to him. I think he's going to get it done. I don't know how, a submission maybe. Chandler does let that head down a lot. But I truly think that Dan Hooker was under a bad mindset, bad energy. The shit Dan Hooker was saying going into that fight, I should have been all over Chandler betting wise, man, because the kid just doesn't really think before he talks. But I think Charles is going to get this done with a knee or a submission. But I am curious to see what happens if this becomes a war where both guys, a dogfight where both guys won it. The case could be made that Chandler is a little tougher. So we'll see.
It's just really, to me, about has Oliveira truly, caught up the mental with the physical. Because, like I said, when we first saw this guy, we knew that he had all the potential in the world. That submission ability, the way he runs you through the series, he transitions from different submissions over and over, his stand-up, the flying knees, just the whole arsenal. I can't knock his skill set even one bit. I think the guy is phenomenal. I think he's got the right size for the weight class. He's just a badass. It's just always been about the mental with him. The last time he quit was against Felder. He ran him through the series. Felder survived, and then Felder smashed him. Has Oliveira truly gotten over the hump, or is he kind of, just fought some very favorable matchups in this current win streak? That's the big question, because the only 2 top 15 guys he's beat in this, current win streak are Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson. So this fight's going to let us know exactly where he stands. But there's something to be said about a guy who's been grinding for over 10 years, who's been through the ups and downs, and Chandler has too. Don't get me wrong. I'm just talking about in the UFC. It seems, and I hate to bring up destiny and all of that, but it seems like it could be destiny for Charles Oliveira to wear that belt Saturday night. And then on the Chandler side, I think he's been grinding for years too, but I kind of feel like he's already had his title reign. He's, I believe, a 3-time world champion in Bellator, and people say, oh, it's just Bellator. Being a Bellator champion is no easy feat, guys. Like, you have to, maybe the come up might be a little bit easier, but to actually win that title fight, like, you're going to fight a high level guy. That's just the bottom line. Most of the Bellator champions are all badasses. I mean, Douglas Lima, Mousasi, Chandler, like there's some real fighters there, man. So
it's my boy Sergio.
Yeah, Sergio did his thing too, shout out to him. Shout out to Triple C. Remember when he fought Sergio? But basically, one thing about Chandler, we have said maybe his chin might be suspect. What about his calves, man? That fight against Brent Primus, that first one where he suffered that little nerve damage. The first strike that Oliveira threw against Ferguson was the calf kick. I'm very curious to see how many calf kicks Charles gets off on in this fight, and then from there, I'm curious to see how it goes. I want to see how Charles responds to the big power of Chandler. Chandler can crack, man. Chandler's knocked a lot of people out. He's knocked a lot of people down. Charles has been knocked down more than once. But if you want to talk about the evolution of Charles's mental game, in that Tamor fight, he got dropped, and in past times, he might have let the ref intervene, but this time he got back up and he whooped the dude's ass. So maybe that's a sign that, now he can overcome adversity. Like, if the mental truly clicked, like, that's the big question. If it truly clicked, then I think he's ready to be a world champion Saturday night. With Chandler, I don't question his mental. With him, it's more like he's a max effort guy. He's going to go balls to the wall. If you're driving on the highway, you push that pedal to the metal, you're going over 100 miles per hour. It's only science that gas tank is going to dwindle down just by nature. That's just by default how it goes. And that's how Mike Chandler fights. He goes balls to the wall from the jump. And I do think there's a chance he gets that early finish. I have seen early finishes on Charles before. I mean, I remember the Cub Swanson fight. I remember the Ricardo Lamas fight. I remember so many. The Max Holloway fight. I know you remember that. So for a guy like that to overcome all that adversity and then become a world champ, it would be like the Jan Blachowicz story. Jan started his UFC career 2-4, and now he's a world champion, beating Izzy Adesanya and all these other guys. So yeah, it's pretty badass. I'm gonna go with Charles Oliveira. I think that we will have that storybook ending with him, having the belt around his waist. But if those past issues reappear, I can't sit here and act like I won't be surprised, because we've seen it more than once, right? But I am under the inclination that he's patched that up, and that that the mental has finally caught up with the physical. And if I'm right about that assessment, then I think he's going to be a champion Saturday night. So I'm going to go with Charles Oliveira to get it done. But listen, I can't fault anybody for taking dog money on Chandler here. Like, I completely understand the case for both. Like I said, this is truly one of those fights. They fight 10 times. I can see it going either way, and I can make the case for both guys, but I'm going to say Saturday night is Charles Oliveira's night. So let's see what happens, guys. Well, Shaq, now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So in your opinion, what is the fight to watch for UFC 262? Yo, you're muted, my man.
My bad. I was saying my fight to watch is that co-main event, Tony Ferguson and Dariush, because Dariush is excitement, man, and Ferguson is also excitement. But Ferguson, I don't want to say his legacy is on the line, but another loss here definitely doesn't help. And Dariush is looking to move up. I think they got him number 9, yeah. So I think if he wins this fight, he gets to move up in the rankings. He's closer to a title fight. It's a big fight in that lightweight division, man. Is T Ferg ready to bounce back, or is T Ferg's best days behind him? I'm excited to sign it. Them two together just feel like fight of the night to me, though.
Yeah, my fight to watch is Edson Barboza and Shane Burgos. I mean, really, let me know the last time you saw a boring Shane Burgos fight. And I think the same can be said about Edson Barboza. Some serious heat is going to be exchanged in that fight. I really do think we're going to be on the edge of our seat for that one for as long as it lasts, whether it's a first-round knockout, whether it's a 3-round war, whether it's a beatdown on either side. I truly believe Barboza and Burgos, that's the kind of fight where you don't want to miss it. Neither guy is going to be out here humping someone's leg, pinning you up against the fence, making the crowd in Houston boo. The crowd in Houston is going to be on their feet for Barboza and Burgos.
Speaking of Houston, sorry to cut you off, but what's worse, Apex judges or Houston judges?
Hashtag 3026 Bosch. Y'all got to go back and watch Tim Bosch for CB Dalloway if you want the first example of those Texas judges.
For those that don't know about them Houston or them Texas judges, I'm going to just give you some of the examples of some of the decisions. I don't think Murphy and Lee was a robbery, but that was in Texas. Martinez and Uhl was in Texas. Bosch and Dalloway was in Texas. I know you remember that Alexander Hernandez and Trinaldo fight. That was in Texas. You know, I mean, them Texas judges, my God, they're known for their fuckery, but we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of those things now where it's like betting on the sport has gotten tougher in the way that like you don't even know what these judges are seeing anymore, man. Like some of these scorecards I've been seeing at the Apex or in Texas, I'm just like, you know,
you mean 30-27 Trizano?
Like I get that fight played out closer than the line, but like I thought Klein won the first 2 rounds and lost the third. I thought it was pretty like clear what happened. And it's not even just that fight. There's so many other examples. It's just you never know. Like what about Dwight Grant and Sekulic?
Like, see, man, I felt bad. You should have seen my boy Dusko Todorovich's face in the corner. They were in complete shock. They were like, what? Like, I think Dusko was actually he was asking to see the scorecard for himself. He was like, wait, let me see. Like, it was fucking hilarious.
Before we talk about the fighter to watch, the fans wanted to know your opinion on that fucking weirdo that had Diego Sanchez hanging from a thing and it was like kicking him in the face.
You talking about Coach Fabia?
Coach Fabia. Master Fabia, that guy?
Yeah. You talking about Master Fabia? Yeah. But, what do I think about it? It doesn't shock guys. Y'all know. Look, I'm not a Diego Sanchez fan personally. There's fans of plenty of guys in the sport, but he's one of the guys where there's only a few guys that have blocked me on Twitter, and let me just say them. Actually, there's only 2 guys. Well, and one of them's Tyrone Woodley, and the other one's Diego Sanchez. I mean, look, these guys. I don't even want to get into it because I know I'm going to hurt a lot of feelings, but I'm actually not even going to say it because everyone loves Diego Sanchez, but I just look at him a little differently. Am I surprised by this? No. I mean, Diego's a nut job, dude. I mean, like Coach Fabia, I mean, and you know, things in Albuquerque, I've never been to Albuquerque, but from what I've seen, I mean, it just looks like it just looks like a weird place. And I mean, you got them to Josh Fabia. I mean, I've seen the guy running with knives in his hands and chasing his students around the cage, and now he's punching Diego in the face upside down. I mean, I don't feel sorry for a grown man with Diego's experience and knowledge of the game following a guy like Josh Fabia, but that's just me personally. But I hope – but you can't tell a grown man what to do, especially – when you got money like Diego Sanchez. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Unfortunately, I see a lot of BJ Penn signs coming up here shortly. So stay tuned to TMZ. I'm sure we'll see Diego in a bar in a year or so fighting some snow cone guy or the strip club bathroom attendant, one of them, you know.
I just hope that Tony Ferguson doesn't go down that path.
Oh, he trust me, him too. He in a few years we're gonna be like, God damn it, Tony, not again.
It's just sad because like, you know, Diego did have some fantastic fights back in the day. That Martin Kampman fight, one of my favorite fights. The Paulo Thiago fight was a great fight too. So he just had a lot of classic wars. But when you take that kind of damage, then you add some years onto it, and now at the point where he's at the end of his career, and you get this little leech, come in and brainwash you the way he has.
The sad thing is that he's actually giving him money, and it's Diego's rich, so it's like Josh Fabia is literally making a check off this shit.
I heard that Diego's been cutting off members of his family to be loyal to Josh Fabia, so it's just.
Not only that, I also heard that they're in a relationship too. But hey, that's not my business.
Yeah, I got nothing against them being in a relationship. I just wish that they weren't doing. I just wish they weren't doing other dumbass shit like fucking what happened at the fighter meeting, the hanging upside down. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? And we know how this story's gonna end. So
can you believe they would talk to Megan like that? Like, why would you talk to Megan like that?
Yeah, completely. Like when you talk about school of self-awareness, it's like the complete opposite of self-awareness. It's like the school of self-unawareness. It's unreal.
Another thing I wanted to mention, Stefan Bonner, what the hell is that guy doing and enabling Diego like that? I remember when he got pissed at Diego for eating all the asparagus. I don't know if you remember that on the Tough Show, but but now I see they're best of friends. Exactly, Alfonso. You can't mix business. Worst girlfriend, Platinum Princess, or
hey, real quick. Platinum Princess got more dubs in the UFC than Fabia, so
like Platinum Princess actually. Well, Fabia did beat Michelle Pereira by quit. He told Diego,
Michelle Pereira.
They defeated Michelle Pereira, but Platinum Princess actually legitimately won a fight as the only cornerman. So we got to give her some shout out to Coach Latore.
Yeah, and the Platinum Princess too, the Danielle. Because when I saw Mike Perry fight Jake Ellenberger in Nashville, and he knocked him out. Danielle was in the corner, so I think that the Platinum Princess has more credentials than Josh Fabia personally.
She ain't the Platinum Princess no more.
both Platinum Princesses got more credentials than Josh Fabia, in my opinion. But now we got to talk about the fighter to watch. So Shaq, who is the fighter to watch for UFC 262?
Man, that's a tough one. My fighter to watch is actually going to be a surpriser of some sorts. It's going to be big sister Antonina, man. She kind of is in the shadow of little sis. Little sis is, is it safe to say is it too soon to say she's top, second, third of all time? Who's Nunes number one? Who's number two? Cyborg? Then three, I guess we got to start putting the Valentinas in there of all time. So I think Antonina, she's got a tough fight on her hands with Andrea, but Andrea, borderline, like you were saying, she hasn't been the same without Master Donnie Aaron. And I'm not I'm very interested to see how Antonina, she looked very good her last fight. And I think if she wins, she gets to move up in the rankings. And I'm not saying they're completely against doing sister versus sister, but sister versus sister could sell a lot, man.
Yeah, we'd love to have that in the NFC too on the posters. That'll sell out the district in Atlanta very, very fast. But yeah, look, for me, my fighter to watch is Andre Muniz, because I understand that he's fighting Jacare on this big losing streak, and that it's a close fight, and it won't surprise a lot of people if Andre Muniz wins. But let me tell you this: if Andre Muniz becomes the first man in MMA history to submit Jacare, that's going to be a huge deal. That's going to be on highlight reels everywhere. That's going to be something they're talking about in jiu-jitsu class. That's going to be like one of those passing of the torch moments where, the old alligator passes it on to the new young stud. And I'm curious to see what happens in these grappling exchanges. So my eyes on Andre Muniz in this fight, and he's my fighter to watch. Well, Shaq, we did it. It's going down Saturday night in Texas at the Toyota Center, UFC 262. Make sure y'all check out that pay-per-view. Thank you very much for supporting Half the Battle. Follow Shaq at MMA Genius 05. Follow me at Best Fight Picks. I apologize about the mic issues earlier. Definitely going to get that situated. So thank you guys for sticking with us regardless. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places where we are available. Shout out to our sponsor, Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com. Use that promo code BATTLE20 for 20% off and free shipping. Shout out to my boy Marcus with Bud Crush for hooking me and Shaq up with some fire gear. Truly love repping it. Been repping it everywhere. Braves game, NFC fights, man. It just looks good, feels good. So I'm very happy. So you've been rocking that shit, Shaq?
Yes, I have actually. And shout out to my boy Bud Crush, man. That's some show him stand up and show him the back of that, man.
Yeah, bro, this shit right here.
I mean, you know what I'm saying, for all my 420 homies out there, but
I don't know if y'all saw it, but it's dope as fuck.
But man, yeah, shout out to Bud Crush. Another thing I wanted to say, man, is all the love we get from Twitter is greatly appreciated. You know, sometimes, you know, I got a full-time job. I can't go through all my mentions, but you know, I do appreciate all the love we get from each show to show. It's definitely greatly appreciated. Another thing, man, let's be positive on that MMA community, man. You know, I don't want to see dudes in here arguing and then people bringing up dumb shit. Like, it's supposed to be just you know, like a positive community, but it's like, damn, just because someone doesn't agree with you doesn't mean he's a dipshit or, you know, an idiot. Like, there's a difference in opinions, man. But that's just one thing I wanted to say. Shout out to the homie Rockstar Whitehead. I heard he sniped a dude in less than a minute. So yeah, that's what's going on.
Yeah, make sure y'all remember the name Jamar the Rockstar Whitehead, because he will be in the UFC 100% guaranteed. Top prospect out of Georgia. I'm also happy to represent him and 1-0 as a pro now, and handled that 1-0 in style and put himself on the map. At only 1-0, people are already looking at him. So I'm very pumped to see what he does. So shout out to Jamar the Rockstar Whitehead. Shout out to all our supporters, all our listeners. Thank you guys so much for everything. We'll be back for the next card. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.